Like many of her peers, Li Qinglin depends on Foxconn for a living. For a 23-year-old woman from the countryside, working for the world's largest electronics contract manufacturer, which employs more than 1 million people, mostly around her age, comes close to a default career choice. But Ms. Li has decided her place is in a booth just outside the factory gates in the central Chinese city of Zhezhou. Instead of working on the Taiwanese company's production lines, she tries to recruit others to do so. "I am not going in there," she says, explaining that running a "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. One woman employment agency is much better than assembling an iPhone 5. "I'm now at an age where I'm most energetic and can achieve most. I want to use this time to do business." Ms. Li is not alone. Her willingness to think about life beyond the factory is emblematic of her generation, which is less enthusiastic than their parents about manufacturing work. This shift in aspirations is happening as another demographic wave is beginning to wash across the country. The apparently limitless supply of migrant labor, the basic building block of the successful Chinese manufacturer, appears "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. To be running out. The impact will be felt both at home and in advanced economies, as businesses that source products in China eventually pass on higher costs to Western consumers. The slowing expansion of the labor force coincides with a slowing in the pace of Chinese growth. And economic pressure on factory owners has been growing. For the past 3 years wages have increased annually at double-digit rates. The more assertive workforce has also fueled labor unrest. Foxconn began to address increasing labor costs almost a decade ago by building plants away from the traditional coastal manufacturing "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Hubs of Guangdong and Shanghai, where competition for workers was most intense. It accelerated that move after a series of staff suicides in its first plant in Shenzhen in 2009 and 2010, which exposed the problems of massive factory towns crammed with hundreds of thousands of young people who work far away from home. In less than 2 years, it has built 2 huge plants in cheaper inland locations, a production base for Apple iPhones in Zhezhou, where Ms. Li is set up shop, which now employs 192,000, and an iPad factory in the western city of Chengdu, with "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. A headcount of 110,000. Foxconn's manufacturing base in Shenzhen is still its largest and, as the company rushes to meet orders for the iPhone 5 launched last month, has 390,000 on the payroll. As a result, Foxconn's Chinese headcount has hit a high of 1.2 but 2 cases of labor unrest in inland factories within 2 weeks in the past month suggest its model may not be sustainable. On October 5, hundreds of quality control staff in Zhezhou refused to work following 2 standoffs with production line workers over stricter quality requirements for the iPhone 5. On September 23, an argument "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Between the worker and a security guard at the plant in the northern inland city of Taiyuan, where Foxconn employs 79,000, escalated into a riot. 40 people were injured, shops looted and cars overturned. High-quality global journalism requires investment. Please share this article with others using the link below. Do not cut and paste the article. See RTS and CS and copyright policy for more detail. Email fsales.support@ford.com to buy additional rights. http://www.ford.com/cms/s/0/53358 D5E1452 11E28CF2001 for feed C0.html number sign 9ZZ29 JFUQO. Foxconn's replication of the plants that are no longer sustainable in coastal China in the inland provinces is problematic, as it continues to "thank you for trying" verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Use the same model, says Zhang Shui of the Institute of Population and Labor Economics at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. He points out the risks of continuing to rely on large numbers of very young staff. In the near term, Foxconn can still survive like this, but eventually they must recognize the big structural change in the labor force. The working-age population is not expected to peak until 2015, but the segment aged 15 to 29 is probably already doing so. largely due to the one-child policy introduced 3 decades ago. The net increase of working age. Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Population will drop sharply to 23m this decade, from the 82m during 2001 to 10 and 90m during 1991 to 2000, Taiwan, UBS economist, writes in a recent report. She also forecasts that after growing by 0.2% per year during the past decade, the young working age population will drop sharply by 1.4% per year in the coming decade. This explains why so many employers are struggling to recruit enough workers even as exports and the larger economy slow. China Confidential, the Financial Times online research newsletter, reports that 200 companies it surveyed in September were able to fill. Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Just 70% of their vacancies for blue-collar jobs. It estimates that the number of workers in the services sector is already about 290m, compared with 225m in the manufacturing sector, and expects services to continue to outpace manufacturing in the coming decade. Although Foxconn offers some of China's best-paid jobs in electronics manufacturing, it is still struggling to hire enough workers to fill its new factories. Human resources officials at Foxconn's Taiyuan facility say the company is loaning hundreds of workers from other plants because it cannot meet its local targets. Local governments in Zhengzhou and Taiyuan. Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Have been busing students to internships at the company, where they help on production lines. Ms. Lee's agency receives a bonus from local government for every worker she convinces to sign the contract with the manufacturer. Work for Shenzhen wages in your hometown. Screen her leaflets, promising a monthly starting wage of RMB 1,800–285 and the chance to make double that amount, including overtime, after passing the 3-month probation period. She also promises the RMB 300 cash reward to anyone who signs up on the spot. Michael Wright, a professor at the University of Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Hong Kong and author of a book on China's manufacturing hub in the Pearl River Delta, says that the job preferences of women in particular have changed. Not only are they less likely to move to the coast, but they are also less likely to wish to work in manufacturing. The electronics factories used to be all female, he says. The service sector is becoming a much more viable employment opportunity. China Confidential quotes an April survey of more than 11,000 migrant workers by Datewise, the job search website, that bears this out. 9 of the 10 favorite jobs of Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. The women surveyed were in services, the top 3 being sales representative, receptionist and administrative assistant. Many more men wanted to work in manufacturing, but even there the most desirable job was in sales. The industries reporting the fastest growth in new jobs in September were catering, commercial services and transport and logistics, according to China Confidential, increases of 70% for the former sector and 45% for the other two. Jobs in retail grew by 35%. By contrast, the sectors with the largest drop in jobs, ranging from 25%. Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. To 50% were in machinery, construction, clothing and textiles. The larger numbers of male factory workers create a less docile workforce, says Profit Wright. The majority of the 2,000 employees involved in last month's Taiyuan riot were young men, according to witnesses. The most recent incidents were preceded this year by unrest in Foxconn plants in Chengdu and Wuhan, another inland city. Young men and women today have much higher aspirations than their parents did. Many psychotherapists employed at plants across southern China, partly in response to staff suicides, say thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. The first generation to work in coastal factories compared their jobs favorably with their parents' labor on the farms. Their more consumerist children, however, tend to compare their situation with that of today's wealthy Chinese. President Hu Jintao and Premier Wen Jiabao, due to hand over power in a once-in-decade leadership transition scheduled for next month, have promised to address the growing income gap. the leadership has created expectations that will be difficult to impossible to deliver on in the near term, Profit and Wright says. Foxconn's factories, staffed with relatively well-educated workers, act as a social thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Laboratory where these aspirations clash daily with the monotonous rigors of making iPads and iPhones. Speaking in an alley near the Shenzhen plant, a 27-year-old engineer expresses his happiness at being sent to a Brazilian Foxconn factory. "We spent 4 months there, which was an unforgettable experience in my life. The company organized travel once a week and took us to Chinese restaurants every 2 weeks," he says. But, a month after his return, he recites a litany common among his generation. "Manufacturing is boring. No matter which factory you work for, they produce the same product every day. He thank you for trying verbose." This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. He says, "I want a better pay job and to work for a more efficient company in the future. Whoever joins manufacturing eventually feels bored." With a monthly income of more than RMB 5,000, he earns more than most factory workers. But he has his eyes set on a bigger prize, and plans to quit in a few years to open a business. Compared with people who earn salaries from working in manufacturing or services, businessmen buy a house and car within 2 to 3 years if the business goes well, he says. Despite the changed labor market dynamics, experts thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Say there is no country able to replace China as the workshop of the world in the foreseeable future. Instead, the nature of manufacturing there is changing. Because China has had the throw another body at it mentality for production for most of the last decade, there is plenty of room for improvements in efficiency and automation, says Michael Bellamy of Maker. The Shenzhen-based company supplies clients in Europe, the US and Australia with a range of goods from furniture to medical products. Despite the continued growth of its workforce, Foxconn is also taking this path. Last year Terry thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Bao, founder and chief executive, shocked workers by announcing he planned to have as many robots as workers in his factories within 3 years. The Meizu toy factory in the southern city of Dongguan, which makes collectible toy cars for adults, shows how it is done. The Meichong Group, the plant's owner, plans to cut its headcount from 12,000 a few years ago to 8,500 by the end of the year. At the same time, it is seeking to retain older workers by offering accommodation for married staff and creche for their children. In one room, thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. The machine that looks as though it houses a rotating silver Christmas tree undertakes tasks that would once have required 60 workers. Instead, just 2 people monitor the machine as it spray paints the chassis of hundreds of little cars. The future of manufacturing in China may well lie in factories such as this.